Welcome to the latest Mango report. The gap. There is a gap between what is being reported about artificial intelligence and what is actually being deployed right now inside the companies that run the global economy. And that gap is wider than most people realize. The coverage you see, the articles, the panel discussions, the congressional hearings, they are almost entirely focused on consumer AI. ChatGPT, image generators, deepfakes, chatbots. These are the artificial intelligence that has a face, a voice, and a personality you can interact with. And those things matter. I am not dismissing them. But while that conversation has been happening loudly and publicly, enterprise AI has been moving quietly, deliberately, into the legal departments, the finance floors, the logistics networks, and the human resources systems of the largest organizations on Earth. Without press releases, without congressional testimony, without a single trending topic. Today we are going to close that gap. We are going to look at what the enterprise world has figured out, sector by sector, and we are going to ask the question that the coverage isn't asking: what does this actually mean for the people whose work is being restructured around it? What the enterprise AI figured out that nobody is talking about. Previously in episodes 1 and 2, we established that intelligence does not require human anatomy, from the Turing test assumption to the octopus, the crow, and the forest. Today we move from biology to boardrooms. What happens when that kind of distributed, non-human intelligence gets deployed at enterprise scale? Section 1. What enterprise AI actually means. Let me define what I mean by enterprise AI, because the term gets used loosely. Enterprise AI is not the AI you chat with. It is the AI that makes decisions or supports decisions inside organizations. It reads documents. It scores risk. It routes workflows. It flags anomalies. It predicts outcomes. It operates largely out of sight. It is not trying to be human. It is not trying to have a conversation with you. It is trying to process, classify, optimize, and recommend faster and more consistently than any human team could. And the scale of what has already been deployed is genuinely staggering. Not what is coming, what is already in production right now. Legal sector. Artificial intelligence systems now review contracts in hours that previously took lawyer teams weeks. Pattern recognition at scale, no understanding of justice required. Financial services. AI flags fraudulent transactions in milliseconds across hundreds of millions of daily events, statistical anomaly detection, no human analyst could match. Healthcare. AI reads radiology images and flags potential tumors with accuracy that rivals specialist radiologists, pattern matching across millions of training scans. Logistics. Amazon's warehouse AI makes 2.5 million inventory placement decisions per day, optimization without consciousness. Human resources. Over 70% of large companies now use artificial intelligence to screen resumes before a human sees them, the filter before the filter. 2.5 million decisions per day from a single system at a single company. This is not coming. This is not a pilot program. This is the operational reality of the global economy right now. And yet the public conversation remains focused on whether ChatGPT can write a better cover letter than you can. We are watching the wrong screen. Section 2. Sector by sector, the quiet restructuring. Let me take you through 4 sectors where the restructuring is already underway. Not theoretical. Not projected. Happening now. Law. Contract review was, for decades, one of the most labor-intensive and billable activities in legal practice. Large deals required teams of associates working nights and weekends to read thousands of pages of documents, flag risk clauses, and summarize obligations. Junior associates spent years doing this work. It was, in many firms, the first rung of the ladder. AI systems like Kira, Luminance, and Harvey can now perform initial contract review in a fraction of the time. Not perfectly, human lawyers still review the output. But the volume of associate hours required has dropped dramatically at firms that have adopted these tools. The ladder has fewer rungs than it used to. Finance. JPMorgan Chase deployed an AI system called COIN, Contract Intelligence, that in its first year reviewed 12,000 commercial credit agreements in seconds. Work that previously took 360,000 hours of lawyer time annually. Per year. Gone. That is not a projection. That was reported in 2017. We are now 8 years further into this deployment curve. The numbers are larger. The systems are more capable. And the pattern has spread to hundreds of institutions. Risk modeling, fraud detection, trading algorithms, loan underwriting, customer churn prediction. The financial sector is running on AI infrastructure that most of its own customers do not know exist. Healthcare. This one is genuinely complicated, because the outcomes are not all negative. AI diagnostic tools have caught cancers that human radiologists missed. AI drug discovery systems have accelerated the identification of promising compounds by years. AI triage tools in emergency departments are helping allocate scarce resources more effectively. But here is the tension that the industry is not resolving cleanly. Those productivity gains do not automatically translate into better patient outcomes if the cost savings are captured by the institution rather than reinvested in care. The AI improves the process. Who captures the value of that improvement is a separate question, and a political one. The technology is neutral. The distribution of its benefits is not. Logistics and retail. This is where the scale becomes almost incomprehensible. Walmart, Amazon, FedEx, UPS. The logistics infrastructure of the modern economy is now an AI system with humans operating inside it, rather than a human system with AI tools assisting it. That inversion happened quietly, over the course of roughly a decade, and most people who shop online have no awareness of it. Amazon's fulfillment centers use AI to determine where every product should be stored, predict which products will be ordered before they are ordered, route every picker to every item, and optimize every delivery route in real time. The humans in those facilities are executing instructions generated by a system they cannot see at a pace set by a system they cannot negotiate with. That is a fundamentally different relationship between a worker and their workplace than anything that existed before. And we do not yet have the language, legal, philosophical, or economic, to fully describe what it means. Section 3. What the enterprise knows that it isn't saying. Here is what I think is the most important and least discussed aspect of enterprise artificial intelligence deployment. The companies doing it know something that they are not saying publicly. They know that the efficiency gains from AI are real, significant, and accelerating. They know because they are measuring them. They are measuring them obsessively, because that is how you justify the capital expenditure to your board. And what those measurements show, internally, in the decks that do not get shared at press conferences, is that in task after task, domain after domain, AI is not just assisting human workers. It is replacing the need for certain categories of human judgment entirely. Not all judgment. Not creative judgment, or relational judgment, or ethical judgment, at least not yet. But procedural judgment. Rule-based judgment. The kind of judgment that says, this contract clause is non-standard, flag it. This transaction pattern is anomalous, stop it. This resume matches these criteria, advance it. This patient image has a shadow in quadrant 3 that warrants further review. That category of judgment, which constitutes a very large fraction of the work done by educated, credentialed, well-paid professionals in the modern economy, is being systematized. And the companies doing the systematizing are not eager to be the public face of what that means for the workforce. So instead, they talk about AI as a tool that empowers workers. Which is true. And incomplete. It empowers the workers who remain. The question they are not answering is, how many remain? Goldman Sachs published a research note estimating that AI could automate tasks equivalent to 300 million full-time jobs globally. McKinsey has published similar projections. These are not fringe estimates, these are the consulting firms that the same companies are paying for strategic advice. The enterprise knows what is coming. It is managing the transition on its own timeline, with its own priorities, largely outside of public view. I want to be clear, I am not saying this is malicious. Most of the people making these deployment decisions believe, often correctly, that AI will create new categories of work even as it eliminates old ones. History supports that view, up to a point. What I am saying is that the people most affected by this transition, the workers, the communities, the institutions that train people for careers that may not exist in their current form in 10 years, are not at the table where these decisions are being made. And that is a problem regardless of how the technology ultimately plays out. Section 4. The question behind the question. In episode 1, I asked, why did we build artificial intelligence in our own image? And I argued that the assumption that real intelligence looks like us led us to ask the wrong questions. The enterprise world has largely stopped asking that question. It does not care whether its AI looks human, feels human, or passes any version of the Turing test. It cares about one thing: does it work? And by that measure, the measure of functional effectiveness, enterprise AI is working exceptionally well. At a scale and pace that the public discussion has not kept up with. But here is the deeper question that this episode is really about. When intelligence, functional, effective, economically consequential intelligence, does not need the anatomy of man to exist, it also does not need the protections, the rights, the wages, the rest, the relationships, or the dignity that we built our economic and social systems around. The octopus's arm does not file for unemployment. The mycorrhizal network does not need health insurance. The enterprise AI system does not need a pension. We built economies for human intelligence. We are deploying non-human intelligence into those economies without redesigning the systems around it. That is not a technology problem. That is a governance problem. A political problem. An ethical problem. And it is one that the enterprise is not positioned to solve. Because the enterprise is not structured to optimize those outcomes. It is structured to optimize shareholder returns. Which means the solution, if there is one, has to come from somewhere else. From public institutions. From policy. From the kind of collective, democratic decision-making that, frankly, moves much more slowly than the technology it needs to govern. That gap between the speed of enterprise artificial intelligence deployment and the speed of institutional response is, I would argue, the central challenge of this decade. Not AGI. Not robot uprisings. Not deepfakes. The gap. Enterprise AI is not a future scenario. It is a present reality. It is already embedded in the legal system, the financial system, the healthcare system, and the logistics system. It is making consequential decisions about contracts, about credit, about candidates, about care, at a scale and speed that no human system could match. That is not inherently good or bad. It is a fact. And facts are more useful than fear. What you do with that fact depends on who you are. If you are a worker in one of these sectors, it means understanding which parts of your role are algorithmic and investing in the parts that are not. If you are a business owner, it means understanding where the efficiency gains are real and where the hype is getting ahead of the evidence. If you are a citizen, it means demanding that your elected representatives have a more sophisticated conversation about this than they are currently having. And if you are a regular viewer of the Mango Report, it means staying at the table. Because this conversation is going to matter for the next 20 years, and most people are not having it yet. Next week, Episode 4, we were warned about the wrong monster. We are going to talk about the AI fears that dominate our culture, the ones from the movies, the ones from the headlines, and why they may be pulling our attention away from the threats that are actually reshaping the world right now. It is the most provocative episode of the series. I think you are going to want to see it. Subscribe if you have not. Share this with someone who is paying attention. And drop a comment below. I want to know which sector surprised you most. Law, logistics, finance, or healthcare? Tell me what you did not know before today. This is the Mango Report, AI edition. I'll see you next week.